All right, so restarted. I'm new to this form of technology with the webcam and this kind of stuff, trying to make this video. So I'm going to pick up here. I'm going to start from here. Am I going to start from here? I might not start from here. Hold on. Pause. All right. I'm going to start from here. I'm redoing this 20 seconds into a new video. I'm going to move this over. All right. So let's start right from the beginning. Fact check. Maxwell's father, MI6, and sex operatives. We're less than 2 minutes into this. This is about the 1:45 mark. I do have this marked on all my pages, so you can kind of fast forward to the in the podcast where this gets picked up. I'm not accurate on it. I'm guesstimating by some of the trackbacks on what this was: 30 seconds, 20 seconds, so forth and so on. So, anyways, a minute 45 into it. Jones makes a claim that Ghislaine Maxwell's father was MI6 and used sex operatives to extract information or blackmail people. The rumors behind this and his possible double or even triple agent status and history come from mainly three sources. A 2003 Telegraph article which states that the foreign officer suspected that Maxwell was a secret agent, probably Russian, which the information was supposedly revealed by some papers. And it was also mentioned in a 1990 book by a Welsh author, Gordon Thomas, called Gideon's Spies and the Secret History of the Mossad, that Maxwell was Mossad himself. Overall, Maxwell has been said to have links to MI6, KGB, and Mossad. Those are three computing foreign agencies that really don't get along and really wouldn't trade characters if they had to. So there's some conflicting evidence as far as, how many double agent, triple agents could you be? A triple agent, you're fucking far out there, man. I mean, that's not even James Bond shit. Like you have a scope and you're involved in multiple tangents of government and espionage, which would be insane. But okay, maybe it's true. Supposedly as well, before Maxwell's death, a former employee of Israel's Military Intelligence Directorate approached a number of news organizations in the UK and US with allegations that he was Mossad. So somebody was basically just giving up information, selling it to the newspapers. That's always a sketchy factor. That's a blackmail kind of factor. This same employee also claimed that in 1986, Maxwell informed the location of a nuclear technician who had leaked information about Israel weapons programs. Maxwell publicly denied those allegations. So it's hearsay. You have somebody saying something, you have somebody he's saying the opposite, and no government stepping in between to clarify or justify or agree that any of this information is true, of course, because it's spy game. Maxwell's death supposedly occurred in the Canary Islands. Jones goes into this a little bit. Jones and Tim kind of make this a little bit of a mystery novel. He died doing this. But as multiple articles stated, his death supposedly occurred in the Canary Islands, and it's been said that Maxwell went naked to the deck, as he often did, which is in quotes. Multiple people said that worked for him, to have a late night pee over the side of the boat, something that is claimed by multiple people, and that he often did that, and he must have fallen over or drowned or suffered a heart attack first and then fell overboard. Now, I know that automatically sounds sketchy and, dark espionage theory, trank dart thing in his drink that killed him, heart attack first type shit, but that's ultimately the final conclusion of this. His naked body was recovered from the Atlantic, and besides a graze on his left shoulder, there were no noticeable wounds on Maxwell's body. In 91, it was ruled death by heart attack combined with accidental drowning. So that goes back to the original theory. The guy was standing ass naked on the side of his yacht, peeing off in the ocean. Not healthy. And then has a heart attack and falls in the water and then drowns subsequently. So they ruled it as a heart attack combined with accidental drowning. 3 pathologists had been unable to agree on the cause of his death. Suspicious. At the inquest, but had found that he had been suffering from serious lung and heart conditions. So all 3 of them, they couldn't find a final say on the for which cause of death came first, but they agreed that the dude was unhealthy overall, and that lung and heart in particular were susceptible to failure due to diseases, due to long-term impact that he had in those. So Maxwell's own son, which is interesting that a lot of these stories, especially that Jones brings up, is family members are involved. And when family members basically say the opposite or don't agree with the conclusions that medical professionals and news and rumors and hearsay make, that creates an interesting conflict in story. That you have somebody who's involved, you have somebody who intimately knows the person, you have people who don't. They say one thing, family says another, it doesn't match up. It's not suspicious as it is inconsequential, because you would kind of want to believe the family first. You know, if this was crazy, if this was espionage, if this was MI6, Mossad, KGB murdering this guy and your family, most people would want to say, hey, it's suspicious, hey, blackmail, hey, dark ops type shit, versus, hey, nothing. So when that, bless you, when that kind of stuff happens, see, they're getting to you. It's a KGB, bro. So when that kind of stuff happens, it makes it very difficult to follow the bouncing ball further down the conspiracy theory line, because the family kind of cleaves it. So, I think I spit something. So, suffering serious lung conditions. Maxwell's own son didn't believe the claims of suicide which had been floating around, saying that it wasn't in his father's history or mindset. And that is, there's much more to be unearthed there. If you were to look this up, the interviews that his son did give, he basically at no point says anything nefarious. I'm going to use that word multiple times. Says anything nefarious or is like, oh, hey, you know, wink, shit's going on. It basically, no, my dad was naked. He pissed over the side of a boat. He either fell in or he had a heart attack or both. And that was it. So 2 minutes into the podcast, that's already what we're dealing with. Those seem to be the only allegations that would link him to government spy position. So you have Father Maxwell, you have Yassine, Jealousine, whatever Tim, Joe, and Alex want to say it as, next under that. And then already 3 minutes, and this is going to become a huge thing throughout the next portions of my takedown of this podcast. 3 minutes in, the name Ted Gunderson and the Franklin sex ring gets brought up. I'm going to unpack that later. There's a later point in this, almost an hour and a half later, where Jones really gets into this. This is a very fascinating thing. It's the first time I've heard this in particular. I tried to unpack it as much as possible, so we're going to get into that later. At the 3:30 mark, Jones brings up Borat and Sacha Baron Cohen, and that's up to you on what you want to think was going on as far as the Rudy Giuliani moment and tape and recording of that film. I'm not with Joe that he was just taken off his mic. If you wanted to do that, you probably would have made that apparent. If you're definitely in a room alone with a young female and you don't want to make it weird, you're probably going to say, can you help me get my mic off? As he helped her get her mic off. Get her off. It sounds weird now. But, you know, hey, I'm gonna disconnect, right? Like, you would probably, any rational person would do the probably normal, natural thing. Giuliani, obviously not a part of that at all. So it definitely kind of seemed like something more, to be honest with you. Regardless, if you're alone in a room with a female reporter reaching down your pants for any reason, just not a good move. So, 6 minutes in, they go through this whole thing. Jones doing an Asian accent, trying to sound like a Middle Eastern accent, is horrifically funny. Just a side note, that's just me throwing that out there. When he attempted to do that, man. Okay, so at the 6:30 mark, Jones claims that Sacha Baron Cohen wanted him banned from social media platforms. Sacha Baron Cohen wanted social media companies to step up and take more responsibility for leaving dangerous conspiracy theorists and theories unchecked. Hate and misinformation is what he was aiming for, and he used Jones once as an example because YouTube had recently pulled his platform, Jones's platform, for what happened with the Sandy Hook incidents. As Sacha Baron Cohen said himself, social media, quote unquote, spreads hate, conspiracy theories, and lies. We can all agree to that. Pointing to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg's recent speech warning against laws and regulations targeting companies like his. The speech is online, and there's also, I think Sacha has his own verbal transcript typed out. If you want to look this stuff up, and you can keyword search it, you can tear it apart all you want, but this is ultimately what happens. Cohen asserts, freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. I think we could all agree that we should not be giving bigots and pedophiles a free platform to amplify their views and target their victims. On his own Twitter account, after his speech, Sacha Baron Cohen again claimed that if we want to stop the hate, we have to regulate Facebook and social media, and it's the greatest propaganda machine in history. In Cohen's speech, he only mentions Jones once. Jones claims that he wanted him banned and that he asked for his arrest. And so we're going to go into that right now. It's real quick. And he only uses Jones's name as an example once where he says, quote unquote, think about it. Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, and others, they reach billions of people. The algorithms these platforms depend on deliberately amplify the type of content that users are engaged, stories that appeal to our baser instincts and that trigger outrage and fear. It's why YouTube recommended videos by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, the only time he mentions them, billions of times. It's why the fake news outperforms real news because studies show that lies spread faster than truth. Cohen never uses the word arrest once in his speech, and you can easily just search that. Video and text of his speech, again, can be found online, and you can double check that with me and for me. If you find something else, let me know. If you said it in a different interview, send it to me. I couldn't find a single quote or reference to Cohen saying Jones or Zuckerberg should be arrested. At no point ever in my searches, and I typically, just as a side note, I would go 5 pages deep into Google, searching through all this keyword stuff, searching for these letters. If an interview got brought up, I would scan it as quickly as possible. I also do, as a side note, can speed read, but also, the find on web pages and documents is pretty easy. But at no point does Jones's claim match up to what actually happened in real life. That's one of those incidences. It's very small, it's subtle. He said he wants me banned, he wants me arrested. It's not true. So 9 minutes in, there's no evidence. This is the Biden laptop story, and oh my God, does this get weird? So buckle up, kids. There's no evidence whatsoever that the Biden laptop story is true. That we're past the election now. At the time that was the Jones podcast, the Rogan's recorded, they'd already been out there for quite a little bit. But pre the election, up to the election, did the podcast on the election night, so forth and so on. The entire time, none of what's been stated in right-wing media sources has ended up being true so far, including, I think Jones makes a statement, the FBI is investigating, look it up, right? But the more you look into it, the fact that it was being shopped around for a year prior to being mainstream this year, so in 2019 it was being shopped around in the Ukraine early on as a type of blackmail info, who wants to buy this, who wants to sell to Trump. who made this shit. The election is over at the time of me recording this right now, and nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has come out about the laptop or any case or any investigation surrounding it. At the 10:40 mark, Jones makes the claim that the Ashley Biden diary exists, and it also, reveals pedophilia and that Joe was inappropriate and bullshit. None of the diary has ever been conclusively linked to the Biden family. For someone, I'm going to go into this in a second, so I'm just going to read it. According to nationalfile.com, look them up. National File has obtained what a whistleblower has identified as a copy of the complete diary of Ashley Blazer Biden, a 39-year-old daughter of Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden, dating from during the 2020 presidential campaign. So super convenient that it happens to be within this last year. National File also knows the reported precise location of the physical diary. And has been told by a whistleblower that there exists an audio recording of Ashley admitting that this is her diary. Also super convenient. In the diary, which our sources, National File, says belonged to former vice president's daughter, the author writes of her struggle with drug abuse, sexual contact, molestation, all this kind of stuff. Ashley Biden's struggle with drugs was widely politicized and published in 2009. So this has been out for a long time, almost a decade. According to our source, still on the nationalfile.com, the diary also details Ashley Biden's unhealthy relationship with sex and the probable, not appropriate, showers she shared as a young girl with her father, Joe Biden. That's between them, There is several issues with the story. One, identification and authenticity. It's sketchy. It's no one's proved it. I know that I think in the podcast they say Biden's not admitting to it or saying yes or no. As far as any of the rumor stuff came out, whether it's Hunter or anybody else in the family or even Joe, they didn't bring any of it up to conversation. If it was asked to Joe, hey man, do you have Alzheimer's? Come on. Like, those kind of things happen. He didn't bring it up. He didn't discuss it. He didn't want to go into it. He didn't really feel these questions as far as like, oh yeah, let me talk about that. My daughter's diary was stolen. Like, there's none of that shit. So it makes sense that there's a bunch of fake things happening and then Joe just doesn't even want to talk about him. It makes sense. You might be sitting there as somebody who's not pro-Biden and be like, oh, this guy automatically is bullshit. He's fucking lying, whatever. All right, man, find me something else that says otherwise. That's credible. So again, one, identification and authenticity, it's not there. Two, the way the details are explored and how it jumps to juicy parts, pun intended, are not really done in a therapeutic way that she was supposedly writing this at a time of like overcoming drug addiction and rehab and realizations and self-realizations over what's gone over between herself and her family in larger context. The whole thing, if you start pulling it apart, it doesn't seem like it would be a normal narrative of a girl in 2009, right? She would have been 29 then, ish, writing a diary in this kind of, post-drug state, rehab, let me figure out my life type shit. So it's not really done in a type of way that that would yield to a acceptable type of psychoanalyzation. It's kind of like blah, 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 boom. Like bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Oh my God, my dad took weird showers with me. How crazy. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. I don't know if I was molested. I don't know why she has this voice, but she does. And so when you do that, when you have that cadence in your story and you're trying to map that out, it gets sketchy. As a writer, I wouldn't trust the way that you're laying that out. I would ask that, if you were a student, you need to seed that more. You need to what we call suture. You need to suture that in there better. That it's not going. You're not ending on end rhyme basically. The details are already starting. The myth and the unknowing and the conspiracy and the I'm not sure is already there. The realizations, if that's what you want to call them, are weird and left field. At one point she goes, was I molested? I mean, if you're 29 and you are detailing the kind of experiences that she's detailing, you would know. It's not going to be up for speculation. You would say flat out, my dad touched me. So the fact that none of the, also the diary that's put out, and you can read the pages online, they have them printed up. None of it is actually a certainty. None of it is a certainty of like, oh, this event occurred and this is how I interpret that event. And then therefore this is the conclusion. It doesn't happen that way. The whistleblower who didn't think their media organization they worked for would even publish it, which is weird to begin with. And you have such a juicy story, pun intended, that your own online media source, which you're not, this guy wasn't, or whoever put this out there, wasn't working for Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC. It was like a fucking right-wing website, I believe. Check me on that. They were like, I don't know. So that's sketch. That your own sketchy website doesn't want to put out your own sketchy shit. But they also published it with the audio tape that has Ashley confirming it's her diary. I don't even know what that sounds like. I didn't look that up. What can you imagine that is? Did you have a diary? Yes. Did you lose it? Yes. Did it talk about your dad molesting you? Yes. And I don't know where it is. For as much crazy shit as Hunter, and I'm probably going to get into this in a second, as much crazy shit as Hunter supposedly had on his laptop, and as much crazy shit as Ashley had in her diary, I don't care how fucking cracked out you are, as Rogan tries to put it, they're crackheads, they don't know what they're doing. I know crackheads that can get shit done. They can fucking get into bank safes. If you're that cracked out that you're like, whatever, I might have a laptop where it has child porn on it, I'm just going to let it go. You're eventually going to have a sobering moment where you're like, I need to go to the fucking laptop right now. So again, the way this is left out, who left it out there, the shop owner, the FBI fucking rolling their eyes. This was shopped in the Ukraine a year before any of this stuff came out. It's sketchy, and I understand why Jones brings it up, but you got to understand that this is facts and content and trials and tribulations. So, the fact that she confirms her diary, which is weird, that they also this whistleblower also sought a handwriting expert to confirm it. Okay, but they don't list who that was or what company or organization they work for, so there's no fact check back on that. The diary has everything you would want: sex, drugs, molestation, weird experiences of the parents, ramblings. With all the kind of shit in there, how or why would anyone let this get out of their hands is beyond me. Fuck politics aside, man. Like, if you have that and you've put that out there, whether it's on a digital format or it's a written format, anyone would have a moment where they're like, I need to get that back because that is damaging. I could ruin my entire father's political career as president. Like, oh my God. Like, that's... Anyways. This wasn't a hacking, which is what we've seen from so much stuff that's come out, right? So, I know that I get in this, which is how most of the stuff was found in the 2016 election, right? Was hacking, right? The wicked leaks, Roger Stone, I'm talking to Russians talking to me, paging, because they sell their pagers or something. And this is kids, or as Joe puts it, crackheads, leaving extremely damaging personal, probably going to jail shit out and about. And how easily it's found makes that sketchy. Even if cracked out, I'm sure there'd be a sobering moment in which you would wake the fuck up and want to retrieve this at all costs. If this dude's about to publish this shit in Delaware, you think Hunter, with as much money as he has from Ukraine and China, that he would fucking pay this guy off immediately? But it doesn't happen that way. The guy doesn't even try to blackmail Hunter. He doesn't even go to a point where he's like, I called Hunter and I'm blind. He's also the guy who found this laptop is legally blind. Fine, hey, if you don't give me $1 million, I'm going to publish this shit. There's moments where that doesn't even happen. And I'm sure as some, journalists on a right-wing blog, you would be looking for 50 grand. Most of us would. So laptop plus diary seems like overall bullshit. Just the whole story. And also, if you look at when the election happened, this is on November 13th. Happened a while ago. So what's happened now is fuck all. All right, as the Canadians call it. Nothing's happened. Especially when no major media source or credible media source pounces on it, on any of this, the diary or the laptop, in order to completely tear apart the either or both of their characters. It looks like only right-wing media sources put this out there. There is one fact checked on missbar.com in which they state the following. Miss Barr's investigation found that this source is highly questionable. For an anonymous whistleblower to be credible, the publication must also be credible. In this regard, the national file fails. Media bias lists it under conspiracy pseudoscience, referencing to a website as InfoWars Lite. Shocking. MediaBiasFactCheck.com rated it as conspiracy level tinfoil hat and pseudoscience level strong. We'll fast forward 11:40 mark into the podcast. As of 5 days ago, it's the 13th, so, subtract. The Biden laptop and the FBI, as per Politico reporting, both stories. Biden was the mastermind of an effort to spy on Trump's campaign in 2016, collaborating with top intelligence officials to derail Trump's incoming administration. And in the other, Biden was a secret beneficiary of multi-million-dollar business deals with shady foreign interests carried out by Hunter Biden, were riddled with falsehoods, exaggerations, and assumptions, often pushed by unreliable narrators who revealed no evidence or wrongdoing by Biden. Though Biden's son may face legitimate legal problems over his foreign activities, that is true, and recent reports suggest that he is facing an ongoing FBI investigation, no evidence connects the elder Biden to those allegations, and even though Trump acknowledged that top advisors were urging him to back off the Hunter claims so close to Election Day. The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, chaired by Senator Ron Johnson, ramped up an investigation into alleged improprieties by Obama's administration officials in the weeks before Trump's inauguration, and a parallel probe into Biden's son Hunter's business relationships. This has been going on since Trump got in office. So it's not news now. Johnson's committee released a report based almost entirely on unverified Treasury Department documents, raising salacious allegations about inappropriate international business dealings by Biden's son Hunter. The panel's report found no evidence that the former vice president had acted inappropriately or twisted U.S. policy to help his son. That's the Trump administration own committee investigation saying that. In other news outlets ranging from NBC, New York Times, EA Courier, CNN, Yahoo News, with publication dates ranging from October 2nd onwards, state overall that the FBI is declining to discuss or admit an investigation. Scanning all those articles, though it does appear that Hunter's ties and dealings are being looked at, including a document that carries the FBI code 272D, which is the Bureau uses to signify an investigation into money laundering, anything outside of what I just said would be hearsay and not confirmed. And you are snoring way too loud, my friend. That's it. Period. If Jones has information, he didn't present it. I'll tell you that much. He had a chance. He had papers with him, which we'll go into in a second. We're only fucking 13 minutes into this. 30 minutes into this. Trump absolutely has connections to Russia. Jones tries to make this like, oh, well, people around him become lobbyists and that kind of shit. No. Trump has had 3 personal conversations with Putin, which he allowed to not be recorded. And in one of those conversations, he took the notes from an interpreter at one point. He calls Putin frequently, including the morning of the Bible-holding bullshit. That was his first call, was to Putin. And then he goes out there and fucking gasses people and shoots them back, and they're within their rights to do that. Then he holds up a Bible, which they claim to be upside down, which actually was upside right. And so that was legit. When Trump became president, he obviously, as the leader of the free world, obviously had a direct line to Putin. For somebody right now to be like, there's no connection between Trump and Putin. No, there's a fucking straight telephone line right to that dude's phone. And Trump, his entire time in the administration, has used also a private cell phone. Jared, Ivanka, Trump have all been busted on using WhatsApp, which is not secure. You can look this up. This is already out there. I'm telling you because I've already looked it up. So that's my fact-checking experience. So how that fact escapes people is beyond me. That, Trump would never talk to Putin. No, whenever the fuck he wants, he can do it. So, real deal. So, he doesn't need Stone, Manafort, Papadopoulos. He doesn't need any of that shit. Once he got elected, he could literally call the dude whenever he wants. And it's absolutely totally fine. Because he's in charge of the United States. The president of the United States. He can contact the president of any other country. Why you would think there needs to be a middleman at that point? There fucking doesn't. You don't need it. It's he can do whatever he wants. Clearly he did. So that's all we know. That's the 13-minute mark. 15 minutes later, Jones makes a statement of AT&T and Cohen. They did pull this up. They pulled up the article. Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' attorney, and the dude who got famous by getting himself in a fuck ton of trouble, and now he's dealing with his own jailings and investigations, alleged that Essential Consultants, a shell company set up by Cohen, Joe read this, before the election to pay Daniels, was paid by several corporations, including AT&T. At the time, AT&T was seeking government approval for its acquisition of Time Warner, CNN's parent company. But CNN titles the article states that AT&T confirmed Tuesday that it paid President Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, in 2017 for quote-unquote insights into understanding the new administration. This whole case got messy. They read the headline. I know Joe read the following paragraph. I watched it. The whole case got messy, went to court, was a part of the Mueller investigation, and it just looks like a misguided clusterfuck, including the documents that were blocked by a judge at one point in the Cohen investigation that just appeared in front of a judge, and he didn't even care to look at what Avenatti was claiming. Ultimately, the jury is out on if really AT&T bought, influenced, or lobbied. That final conclusion over Avenatti's claim is out. At one point, the judge could pull up actual transactions between Cohen and AT&T and Trump and connect the dots type shit, and the judge basically is not even interested. It just all sounds like bullshit. So you're going to jail anyways. Who cares? You can't indict a sitting president. So what the fuck is the point of the investigation post that? So that 15-minute mark takes us into the 22-ish minute mark. Somewhere around this point, Alex says that China's president admitted or stated that he admires Hitler. I searched for that exact phrase and for some others just like it, and I could not find a direct quote. There are multiple articles that bring up an analogy of the two men, Hitler and Xi, but most articles state that the analogy is unfair and misused. China is a communist country, and Xi often speaks in Marxist terms. So why would he suddenly go fascist is a little odd. Looking at it from that angle, it doesn't appear that this dude who knows that his words are being dissected and put on a world stage would mimic anything that Hitler said. He might mimic actions, and then you can debate those. But for this dude to go out there, as Alex says, and straight up say, I admire Hitler, I mean, you're asking for a world of shit. I don't care what country this was. And so doing that would be dumb. And it didn't happen, according to what I looked up. 24 minutes into it, China and the dreams of the Red Emperor destroy Trump. This looks like the must destroy Trump statement is from an opinion piece from the Washington Post. I know Alex has the paper in front of him. He shows it up. You can literally see it as the headline in one of those things. It's an opinion piece. You got to take that for what it is. That's a dude writing into the Washington Post saying that I think the following. How much that is factual or backed up by statements and corroboration and you know, not even hearsay, but like actual direct quotes. Like you have to take that for what it is. It's a dude's opinion on what the fuck the situation is. I don't have a subscription, so I couldn't pull it up, to be honest with you. Another article by newstalks.co.nz states a similar title, and again, this is also an opinion article from an August 2019 article that states that Xi must destroy or weaken America and has to do so because it has to deal with how hard Trump was trying to come down on them in America, and that Xi kind of has two choices to deal with the issue. He could play hardball with Donald, or he could find a way to put America in a weaker position to create some kind of gain over how Donald was treating China throughout the 4 years, especially towards the end of it, especially in the idea that they may have to deal with Donald for another 4 years. So the article of this, like, we have to destroy Trump, comes at the time where, like, you know, the first 2 years of Trump presidency, everything's cool. Then we hit China real hard. Then the virus happens. That throws everything for a new loop. And the idea that we may have Trump in office for another 4 years, this opinion piece comes in and goes, China basically has two options. You know, shit or get off the pot type situation. So, you know, they either have to go head to head with Donald, or they have to go after America and weaken America's position. You look at the virus, you can make some conclusions over that. I don't think they're true. Personally, as a side note, I think the virus is not man-made. It's too smart. Sorry, humans. So this is all pre-corona again, so that throws a different monkey wrench into the issue, especially if the article is written way before this. So if it was written afterwards, he might have a new opinion. Again, it's an opinion. As far as a direct quote, the answer is no. The LA Times article, Dreams of a Red Emperor, the relentless rise of Xi Jinping is under their world and nation section and seems to be a kind of history lesson while contrasting Xi's statements and movements over the past 4 years, as well as a contrast to what others say around him, including one dude who harshly criticized the president of China and is now in jail for 18 years. And that Xi also has seen himself as a savior of China and the Communist Party. But a lot of that, we already know this. We already know the course that China is trying to be number one. There are probably more than a dozen nations that would like to be number one as well. It can't just be America. A lot of people are trying to undercut us, of course. This is risk the game, right? As far as the notion of what Alex is stating, I don't know. Again, Alex goes off on the destroy Trump thing. That was an opinion piece. The dude may have the right opinion, but it's still an opinion piece. That Alex tries to state is, I guess, somehow factual or perfect. I don't know. If he loves what the dude says, he should have said that. It wasn't a researched, verbatim, technical, I have references and citations and quotations article. It was a dude's opinion. So flashing forward, 25 minutes and 30 seconds in, coal plants are clean. Well, fuck. This was way left field. Doesn't really fit the conspiracy theory stuff. As far as I can kind of try to stitch it together, this is way off subject. But let's do this quickly. The short answer, albeit it comes from the endcoal.org website, but it seems that the logical answer is ultimately coal cannot be considered clean when you factor in the air and water pollution generated by coal mining, preparation, transport, and combustion. Pollution from the coal life cycles harms human health and the environment. Clean coal is a dirty lie. That's the website. What do others say about the subject? Wiki has an entire page on this stuff called Coal Pollution Mitigation, which states that there are multiple ways, attempts, companies, practices, experiments, technologies trying to make coal clean. There are technologies out there that are trying to make this a better practice, so it appears. Overall, environmental impacts are mainly one, greenhouse gases, which is pretty much proven and non-negotiable. I don't want to turn this into a CO2 versus Earth and climate change because people try to make it debatable when it really isn't overall in a scientific format. There is some nitpicking that can occur, but overall, science is science and opinion is not. You got to leave it at that. I'm going to go into this in a second, but for what Jones knows, what he states he knows, what's been proven false, what he's been ripped apart in the media from, what's been stripped of him as his rights and stuff like that, which I agree with to a point. This dude all of a sudden being a climate expert, I'm going to be nice. Come the fuck on. Like, let's be real. If the dude can't get Sandy Hook right, if he can't get weather weapons right, if he can't get 9/11 right, if he can't get Bohemian Grove right, if it's hearsay, it's conjecture, it's conspiracy theory, for this to be fact, and nothing, I'm not against the guy. I hope he looks this shit up, but I mean, come the fuck on. You know, I'm not well versed in this stuff. Everything I'm about to tell you right now is complete research based on what this dude's claims were. But I'm gonna tell you right now, there's no fucking way I would get up in front of anybody and say this is fact. Any of it. So, the overall environmental impacts are mainly one, greenhouse gases. We got that. Go talk to Bill Nye. He fucking covers that shit really well, even for children. 2 is combustion byproducts. Still on the wiki page. I know, Wikipedia. Environmentalists such as Dan Becker, director of the Sierra Club's Global Warming and Energy Program, believes that the term clean coal is misleading. There is no such thing as clean coal, and there never will be. It's an oxymoron, quote unquote. So let's get off wiki. We'll go to factcheck.org. They're cool. Which was fact-checking clean coal statements made by Trump, because that's where a lot of the stuff came from, which is why I believe Jones is bringing it up. This is just my own opinion. But it states that, quote-unquote, clean coal refers to the technologies deployed at a power plant that make coal cleaner to burn, but not the fuel itself. Modern definitions require cuts in carbon dioxide emissions, and the only way to do that in a substantial way is through carbon capture, which I think he's talking about the scrubbing things when he goes into this. Just 2 coal power plants in the world use this technique, and it makes up less than 0.1% of the American coal-fired capacity. There's an article, What is Clean Coal? The term clean coal, which is used by the industry, the government, and academics, is annoyingly nebulous, according to this article. Clean coal turns out to mean largely whatever one wants it to mean, said Edward S. Rubin, a professor of mechanical engineering and public policy at Carnegie Mellon University. In a phone interview, he has worked on energy and environmental issues for almost half a century and on coal technologies nearly as long. IUNC states it as the following. According to the findings, clean coal technologies have the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but not on a large scale and with enough time frame required to address the problem of climate change. I went 5 pages deep into Google and I couldn't find a single supporting article or website for clean coal. I found one positive hit on DuckDuckGo, which it was by a clean coal technology company. So take that for what it's worth. Snoops, whatever you want to say, it has it as unproven. Look, if you want me to go more into this, please let me know, and I will make a separate video for y'all just about clean coal. And I know there's other factors as far as CO2 emissions, that kind of shit. I'll do an entire episode on that. Just let me know. I'll do it. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to share information. 26 minutes in, hydrogen monoxide is actually dihydrogen monoxide. One and the same, confused as similars. He states it as one, but it's actually other. Lockhaven.edu says dihydrogen monoxide is a colorless, odorless, tasteless, and gas that kills uncounted thousands of people every year. Most of these deaths are caused by accidental inhalation of dihydrogen monoxide, but the dangers of dihydrogen monoxide do not end there. Prolonged exposure to its solid form causes severe tissue damage. That's just a fun side note as to that it's safe. If it's not safe for us to consume, it's probably not safe for the earth to consume. The 27-minute mark, carbon monoxide is emitted into the atmosphere. Its effects, the amount of greenhouse gases which are linked to climate change and global warming. CO, carbon monoxide, pollution, and outdoor air, according to the EPA, is still harmful. Carbon dioxide and monoxide, general differences, according to Industrial Scientific, excess carbon dioxide uses up space in the air instead of oxygen, creating an environment for asphyxiation. Symptoms of mild carbon dioxide poisoning include headaches, dizziness, and at concentrations less than 30,000 ppm, parts per million. Carbon monoxide is far more dangerous of a gas. You can read all about that in their comparisons online. Just search it. You will have hours of fun. That's not what this is for. 29 minutes into it, the ice core samples and the claim that the Earth loses atmosphere. This is going to get weird. According to, quote-unquote, Carbon Dioxide Information Analysis Center, says over the last 800,000 years, atmospheric CO2 levels, as indicated by ice core data, have fluctuated between 170 and 300 parts per million by volume, ppmv, corresponding with conditions of glacial and interglacial periods. The Vostok core indicates very similar trends. Prior to 450,000 years before present time, BP gas, which is clever if you think about it, atmospheric CO2 levels were always below 260 ppmv, right? Parts per million by volume, and reached its lowest values approaching 170 ppmv between 660,000 years and 670,000 years ago. The highest pre-industrial value recorded in 800,000 years of ice core record was 298.6 ppmv in the Vostok core. Around 330,000 years ago. Atmospheric CO2 levels have increased markedly in the industrial times. Measurements in the year 2010 at Cape Grim, Tasmania, and the South Pole both indicated values of 386 ppmv and are currently increasing about 2 ppmv per year. British and Antarctic survey says ice core samples contain information about past temperature and about many other aspects of the environment. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are now 40% higher than before the Industrial Revolution. This increase is due to fossil fuel usage and deforestation. That's their claim. The Guardian did an article called, quote unquote, World Carbon Dioxide Levels Highest for 6,500,000 Years, says U.S. report, which I think Alex quotes the title of that at one point. Scientists at the Mauna Loa Observatory, Joe brings an article up that brings up the same observatory in Hawaii, says that CO2 levels in the atmosphere now stand at 387 parts per million. That's almost 40% higher since the Industrial Revolution, and the highest for at least the last 650,000 years. That was out of 2008. So I'm going to assume, based on Captain Planet and trajectory, that gets worse. Okay? I'm sure we can find a counter information to those sites that would also have flat Earth theories and claim the moon landing is fakes, and then, you know, fucking Homeboy shows up, Jiu-Jitsu shows up, and, you know, but Eddie shows up. Jones isn't a scientist, and nor does he claim to be. So he's kind of out of his lane on this one. I understand why the conspiracy level gets brought up on this shit, but as far as the actual science goes, as far as the statements he makes, they're title headlines. There's not a lot of meat that he's going into the article to justify and solidify his claims on that. But I don't know. Maybe the dude does have a science background that I don't know about. As far as I know, he does not. So going into any of the shit is pretty crazy. And here's a solid example. Okay, he claims that the Earth loses atmosphere. This is fun. As per Science Alert, scientists have known for some time that the Earth's atmosphere loses several hundred tons of oxygen each day. Whoa. They understand how this oxygen loss happens on Earth's night side, but they are not sure how it happens on Earth's day side. According to a press release from NASA's Earth Observatory, no two oxygen outflow events are exactly the same, which makes understanding them a challenge. They call the events fountains of gas that escape the Earth during auroral activity, and the Earth Observatory has a mission dedicated to understanding them. So look, if NASA is having an issue understanding this, Alex is fucked, in my opinion. Why? Because the pattern I'm gathering from a lot of this, in this fact-checking right now, up to this point, and we're not even 30 minutes into this shit, is that he is almost a clickbait problem. Alex has a lot of headline grabbing, which is what Jamie searches, rightfully so. He types in the phrase, he puts it up, boom, there it is. Joe goes, man, you're fucking right, dude. There's an article that says that. But the author, the website, the meat in the article, did you read the whole article? What are the citations? All of that stuff is left on the side of the road. So you can only do so much. And Joe's right. He should have somebody who is sitting next to him. When he makes a statement, someone's going, yay or nay. And why? Because that's important. If he's right, great. But also, fucking, why is he right? That's just as important as being right, and it's just as important as being wrong. So, you know, there's no real regard for who wrote the stuff that Alex brings up, and he's got copies and papers and binders, whatever the fuck. And the conclusions are rough. Okay, Alex obviously knows of this shit. I'm just concerned that he doesn't know this shit, which is two different things, if you catch my drift, right? We're almost 30 minutes into this podcast. Lord. All right, 29 minutes in. Hurricanes are getting weaker every year. Fuck, man. In 2015, The Guardian ran an article titled, Scientists Say at the Atlantic hurricanes are getting weaker, but critics disagree. I think that's where he got his information from. It looks like, again, that he's just going for the title. He's not going for the meat of the article. The data, the statements are on the subject. A lot of the articles talked about an increase in frequency and danger, but multiple articles and stated links that the hurricanes, as they move, encounter other types of weather, winds, heat, cold, that mix and what's called depress the hurricane and downgrade it. Basically, the storm can come in strong and then it can be weakened. That's normal. Storms weaken when they move over areas with cooler ocean water. Science, not opinion. There isn't nearly as much energy in the water to fuel the storm, as per this article, nor is there enough humidity in the air. Hurricanes can also weaken as they travel over land, which we've known for a very long time. So, yeah, are we having more wildfires? Is fucking weather getting crazier? Yes. Yes. If you look at the last 1,000 years of us as a human species, you can chart all of that shit. You know, James Cameron did an entire documentary in which he basically proved that the Moses and you know the plagues, how those environmentally could happen. If you look at it, it makes sense. He has evidence. He actually has video evidence to a lot of that shit. Okay, so what? I mean, if you're trying to create some crazy weather conspiracy, and I understand later on, I'm going to bring it up, that Jones has in his Wikipedia page weather weapons. All right, I can understand why you're trying to hold on to this. I can understand why you're trying to use this as a means to control human beings. But, I mean, you got to fucking actually have science that works, and you have to have a fucking conclusion that also works. So the fact that this, that side note, and again, I'm going to probably go into this. The fact that Jones has been talking about this shit for a lot of years, and it hasn't come true, is an issue. I know Joe's like, you were the first dude to tell me this. Okay, and what happened after that? Nothing. Fucking nothing. So what am I going to do with that? Okay, you were right once, but in 20 years, it hasn't happened again? I don't know, friend. You know? Anyways, I'm just having fun. Again, I love everybody involved in this. It's just my own frustrations from looking this shit up one by one. So, hurricanes, also weaken as travel overland. Again, I'm going to go into several pages into Google. Nothing really comes back in agreement with that statement. I went 5 pages into Google search. Nothing really was like, oh yeah, no, for sure, hurricanes get weaker as the years go on. It didn't happen. 30 minutes. Oh, God. The Carbon Conspiracy. It seems to be a book by the author Stuart Murphy. If it's not, then this is fucking irrelevant. Amazon has the book under literature and fiction and a subcategory called action and adventure. So that's cool. A global warming conspiracy theory invokes claims that the scientific consensus on global warming is based on conspiracies to produce manipulated data or suppress dissent. It is one of a number of tactics used in climate change denial to attempt to legitimize political and public controversy disputing this consensus. Citation. This is not citation. There is a citation. That sentence. Conspiracy theorists typically allege that through worldwide acts of professional and criminal misconduct, the science behind global warming has been invented or distorted for ideological or financial reasons. That sounds very Jones. So if he's saying the carbon conspiracies from a book, it makes sense that that's where he got all of his info from. Is that book right? "32 minutes and 22 seconds in. Fucking nailed this one. The EU calls for the arrest of scientists that question the cause of anthropogenic warming and if it's man-made. That was Jones's statement, verbatim, quote unquote. 4 pages deep into Google, I could not find a single reference to that statement verbatim. So I tried EU arrest scientists, which also yielded no hits. And I tried EU arrests climate scientists, which yield hits, but mainly concerning a group called the Extinction Rebellion, which is a green activist group, but they are for positive climate change actions, which wouldn't line up with his story. Even when I tried to just type climate scientists arrested, nothing. That whole thing was no, basically, which is a minute of the time in the podcast, which took me 10. 32 minutes and 30 seconds in, CO2 can cause a cooling effect. So the website MedCrave has a research paper called Carbon Dioxide. Sometimes it is a cooling gas, sometimes it's a warming gas. Fun. And it broke it down into the abstract as this. This is the abstract of the paper. The laws of physics, namely the gas laws, were applied to the gases in the atmosphere that act as ideal gases. The results show that the air temperature increases from winter to summer. CO2 is a cooling gas. And from summer to winter, it is a warming gas, regardless of its concentration in the atmosphere. Sounds promising. This is contrary to the commonly held belief that CO2 always warms the atmosphere. Makes sense. Back radiation is the sum of the radiation of all of the greenhouse gases back to Earth. It is measured value and increases with temperature and vice versa. Back radiation acts opposite to that of CO2, methane, and trace gases. Okay, we're getting somewhere. On average, the latter account for 1.2% of back radiation, and water vapor accounts for 98.8%. The effect of CO2, methane, and trace gases on atmospheric temperature and climate change is so small as to be negligible. So nothing. Sounds cool. In science meant fuck off. So I don't know, hit or miss on that one. You could do what you want with that one. Other than that, there wasn't much stated to agree with this except one paper, but the paper almost immediately stated that climate change is not possible. So that was very contradicting. I looked it up. I tried to look up the opposite to it. There was a paper, but it was also like, oh, if we're going to talk about climate change, we're also going to talk about something that doesn't exist. So fucking the whole paper is relevant, which is weird. You want a link? Hit me up. I'll give it to you. But any mention of a cooling effect seemed to be based on a winter notion, and that higher water content, clouds, which cools the planet by reflecting more solar radiation back to space, something called negative feedback. Google that term, see what you come up with, do your own research. I did most of it for you, which is why I'm here. 33 minutes and 40 seconds in. The whole world wants to control carbon and then say that carbon is bad. What the fuck? This was a statement that he made off the cuff. And I don't know. I understand the conspiracy theory side that he's trying to say. As far as being able to back any of that up, I can't. I have no idea. So, I know. I'm still going. I got it. Almost done. Sorry, friend. Mom's mad. So yeah. Anyways, I didn't know what to do with that. 34 minutes, 20 seconds in. BP is the biggest funder of climate change. True, but obviously because they want to stay in business, but also if they use green energy in the future, they also want to be a part of it. It doesn't seem to be so nefarious, but Vox.com has a September 2020 article titled "On Climate Change, Oil Gas Companies Have a Long Way to Go." With the subheading, a new report finds that all new industry commitments don't add up. So, which basically, and it goes into great detail that companies are basically not meeting the statements that they once claimed they were going to. 36 minutes and 33 seconds in, carbon dioxide levels were higher in Earth's early past, as he laid it. This is a quote from Jones. Carbon dioxide levels were hundreds of times higher in Earth's early past. Well, for starters, this and the BP thing were immediate Google searches that when I started typing it in, the algorithm caught on. It became the immediate search. So either Google caught on to me, or you guys listening to these podcasts also were doing your own research and fact checking. So good on you. But if you didn't look it up, I have a link to it. But again, they were high back then. The conclusion is kind of out on as to it's kind of out there as far as, again, it's the highest it's ever been. It's 400 right now, according to that Hawaiian observatory, 400 ppm, which is the highest it's ever been. So for Jones saying it's the highest it's ever been in early past, it's not. 38 minutes in, huge crocodile skeletons found in the Sahara. True. That was cool. That was fun. I didn't know that. That was nice. That was, for all the shit that I went through so far, that was good. We're at 1 hour into this, which I think I have like an 8-minute intro into this, so I'm gonna cut it in the next 2 statements. At some point, Alex says that CV COVID deaths 19 are not even 1 million worldwide. They are. At the time that I looked this up, which was yesterday, November 12th, they were 1,293,434. That should have been an easy Google search for Jamie or Joe or Tim or anybody involved. I can cover COVID-19 in another podcast. I have a ton of data to research on that and can cover it from a ton of angles. So just let me know if that's what you're interested in. The 46-minute, 39-second mark, electricity puts out a large carbon footprint. EIA.gov says that it equals about 0.99 pounds of CO2 emissions per kWh, kilowatt hour, sorry. A BBC News article states that the electric car emissions myth busted, put out in March 2020, proves this to be false. Other articles from motorbiscuit.com, whoever there, puts this as it depends on where you reside and whether your city uses what they use for power. So either coal or other. So that would depend on the emission mark. If you go to buy an electric vehicle, what was your city doing to create that electric vehicle? All that makes sense. Agreed. 48 minutes into this, 98% of nuclear power plants are leaking at dangerous levels. The article Joe pulls up is from 2011. Another article puts it at 25%. So you do what you want with that one. The article that put it at 25%, I believe, was within 2018 or 2017. You can fact check me on that one. That'd be cool for you to do that. 52 minutes in, they want to take your car. I don't even know who the fuck he's talking about. I don't even know how to confirm that. I don't even know if it's opinion. I did type in they want to take your car. I couldn't find anything. So good luck on that. 55 minutes in, Alex says he's been on this for 27 years or something. But what or how much of it has come true? If you go through his Wikipedia views, weather weapons, white genocide, vaccines, gun rights, climate change, what and how much of this have we known that's come true? It's not a lot. I understand that Joe's saying things that he says that are backed up on an easy Google search of the title. As far as like real deal facts and statements and citations and proof and evidence, it's very skeptical. And this is why he's a fucking conspiracy theorist. Because a lot of it is hearsay and unprovable. It makes sense. It's not a fault to the guy. Of course, it fucking makes sense that he wouldn't have a lot of this immediately be able to show you facts. So, yeah. But if we also take his entire history of statements and notions and claims, there isn't a lot that holds water. Now, Joe might be like, he is 20% correct. Well, he's 80% wrong then, most of the time. it's still fun. I'm still having fun doing this. I did learn from picking this stuff up. So, moving on, 57 minutes in, for here on and a little bit more so, he goes into an AI debate, but self-driving cars do not cause more harm than accidents. You can look that up, either by title or by exact quote or whatever. But big tech are trying to literally phase out all humans, and the convo switches from the silicon cult, and all this becomes opinion. I can't fact check this. This is what he's saying. I think we know this. Again, if you want me to go off on the environmental shit, I'll do it. It's just going to be a separate podcast. This hits the 1 hour mark for the podcast. I'm over an hour on this. I'm going to label this part 1 then. Shut this down now. I've had fun. I will continue. If you guys like this, if you guys want me to go into more, if you want me to go into more on a particular subject or whatever, hit me up. Comments are going to be open. I'm going to leave my email up. If you want this entire printout, I'll give it to you. I'm literally here for you and me. This is fun for me. I like this. This is just, like I said, a pet peeve project. Shit, I'd love to do this professionally. That'd be awesome. But again, this is one podcast, and I still have to go an hour. I got another 30 minutes after this, and this is when it gets into the really crazy shit, to be honest with you. If you thought the past stuff was crazy, it gets weirder. But this is basic fact checks. Hopefully, you think I did a good job. If you didn't, let me know. What could I have done better? Do you have articles? Do you have places to send me to look up more info? Fucking dig it, dude. Send it. I had fun. I hope you had fun. Here we are. Here we're going. And the next part of this, part 2, coming up soon. Enjoy yourselves. Yeah.